For most of us, we lead our lives, as Thoreau said, through quiet desperation. And we're entirely focused on where are the landmines in our life so we can stay away from them. That is all survival. But at some point, if you're lucky enough, you get to find out that you're more empowered and you have more potential than you ever thought before in your life. And this is when you get to choose your direction of where you want to go. So it's a good thing that we hear the negative and we focus on the negative, because when you translate it into survival, that's actually helping you maintain your life. But we don't want to stop there. We don't want to be limited by that. We want to add to it and then say, okay, I am surviving. Thank you for that. Now, how do I thrive? How do I prosper? How do I flourish? How do I make a difference in the world? Now we reprogram the mind, or we add a program to the mind to go in an additional direction that is a lot more fun and exhilarating and passionate.
Dr. Joe Vitale, welcome to the show.
Are you kidding? I'm excited to be here. I've been living for this moment.
Bro, I love that. I love that. That's presence. And, we were just chatting, we were sort of warming up, and for me to be sitting down and talking to you right now is a little bit of a crazy experience, in the sense that many, many, many years ago, I had this roommate, and his name is Michael. Really interesting cat. And he shows up one day, and he was in sales, and obviously I was in sales back in the day, and he shows up with this burnt CD, right? Which maybe we shouldn't be telling you it was a burnt CD. It said The Secret on it. And I was like, what is this? And he's like, it's The Secret, bro. And I'm like, what do you mean The Secret? He's like, bro, it's The Secret. You just need to watch The Secret. Anyway, fast forward to this. It was a movie or a documentary that I have recommended to 1,000 people, and still to this day appreciates the whole lesson of law of attraction. So with that said, having you the expert here, and plus all the other 90 plus books that you've written, I'd like to start the conversation around law of attraction and why it's important, and how do we live it, and what are some practices, and really sort of what the law of attraction is and isn't. So why don't we start with that question? Because I think a lot of people sort of have this misinterpretation or misunderstanding of the law of attraction.
You said start with that question, but you actually asked about 12 questions.
I know. That's because I'm ADD and I'm all over the place, right?
Right. So I'm going to pick and choose what question I want to answer at this point.
Sounds good.
Well, listen, I love the law of attraction. It's a great starting point for people who have been walking asleep around their lives, because it wakes them up to the reality that they have more power, more choice, more ability to aim their lives in the direction they consciously want to go than they ever thought before. Most people, of course, think the law of attraction just means if I think it, I'll get it. And that's a very kindergarten, superficial, and inaccurate way of looking at the law of attraction. Right. The law of attraction is really working on the subconscious/unconscious mind, and what you're getting is a direct match to what you are believing in your hidden database of a paradigm. That mindset that you have, that most of us aren't thinking about at all because we're thinking out of it, we're thinking from it, is actually what's creating our reality. So when somebody watches the movie The Secret, or reads the book, or any of the law of attraction literature that's out there, it's been out since the 1800s, so there's plenty of it there, they will probably find that it doesn't always work, because they don't have the deeper understanding of the mechanics behind it. And what I've been doing for most of my career here, ever since I awoke to the idea that there was more to it, is telling people, yeah, the secret is great, but there's what's called the missing secret. And the missing secret is the understanding that you have to correct, align, rewrite, erase the limiting beliefs in your subconscious mind. When you're in alignment subconsciously with your conscious intention, you're going to shoot towards it. You're going to accelerate it. You're going to manifest it. But if you're not in alignment with it, you'll have what I call counter intentions. Consciously, you'll go, I saw the movie The Secret, I heard Dr. Joe speak, and now I want to attract my soulmate. But subconsciously, they think, I don't deserve a soulmate. I'm not really lovable, and all the good ones are taken. Well, it's that deeper programming that actually gets manifested. So the short answer is law of attraction is great, but you got to understand the deeper mechanics of it to actually get the kind of results you want.
Yeah. So let's go there. So how does someone go and start to bring that subconscious to the surface? I mean, what would be some first steps, or how do we even begin that exercise?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, it all begins with awareness. And what I tell people is I love intentions. I encourage people to set intentions to answer the question, what do you want to have, do, or be in your life? And as soon as you state your intention, listen to the little voice in your head that's going to start mouthing off. That little voice is going to say, not now, not you, and it's going to come up with all kinds of excuses on why this isn't going to work for you. Those excuses are the voicings of your limiting beliefs. Instead of arguing with them or listening with them or dismissing them, you actually should write them down and start to question them. This is a very easy first level attempt at rewiring your own software. And it begins by becoming aware of the software. So if somebody said, I'm going to enter a fitness contest, and their next thought is, oh, I've entered them before and it's never worked. They're voicing their limiting beliefs right there. And if they don't question that limiting belief, it'll take over and you won't go to the gym, you won't enter the fitness contest, or you will for a while until that nagging dark voice of a limiting belief drags you down and you give into it. So the very first step in all of this is awareness.
And that also requires a little bit of responsibility, because we have to sort of own sometimes the dysfunction and lean into it. You know, top performing athletes do this very well. Like they're saying, like, you know, Michael Phelps, he wins the race before he even starts. The visualization and the intention and the flowing through it and the racing through going through the actual race, like every single stroke, right? And you see people do this, presenters do this very well, right? When rehearsing, if they're really good, and speakers. And we were talking about limiting beliefs. I was chatting about this a little earlier. People are prone to focus on the negative, right? And maybe it's negative and the limiting beliefs are the same. Maybe there's a difference there. But why is the human being conditioned, or what is this unconscious or natural way that we always just beeline to the negative? I mean, it's rare for people to think in the opposite. What do you think creates that?
Well, it's actually a good thing. It's a very good thing, because we are wired for survival. And so what our brain is doing on the deep hardware of the mind is looking for threats. And anything that is scary, anything that is negative, anything that is a possible catastrophe, that's what we worry about. What we're doing is being alerted by our own brain that there is a possible danger here. And that's going to be what's shoved in front of your face, so to speak, before anything else, because the prime directive for each one of us is survival. Now, what most of us don't know is that you can also program your mind to look for, find, and manifest the positive. So obviously the survival's working because you and I are here. Our reticular activating system in our brain is obviously operating. And for everybody that's watching or listening, they are obviously still alive, so their brain is working for them. That default survival, let's pay attention to the negative system, is alive and well, and thank goodness that's why you're here. But now let's go beyond it. Let's become a better human, so to speak. Let's advance. Let's become more awake. What do? This is where we start to set intentions. What do you want to have, do, and be in your life? As soon as you can declare it, and then you can visualize it, and then you repeat that, you are now programming that reticular activating system, your brain, to look for whatever will help you manifest this positive intent. For most of us, we lead our lives, as Thoreau said, through quiet desperation. And we're entirely focused on where are the landmines in our life so we can stay away from them. That is all survival. But at some point, if you're lucky enough, for a lot of people, the movie The Secret was this escape. You get to find out that you're more empowered and you have more potential than you ever thought before in your life. And this is when you get to choose your direction of where you want to go. So it's a good thing that we hear the negative and we focus on the negative, because when you translate it into survival, that's actually helping you maintain your life. But we don't want to stop there. We don't want to be limited by that. We want to add to it and then say, okay, I am surviving. Thank you for that. Now, how do I thrive? How do I prosper? How do I flourish? How do I make a difference in the world? Now we reprogram the mind, or we add a program to the mind to go in an additional direction that is a lot more fun and exhilarating and passionate.
Yeah, I like the way you're describing and you know, characterizing like programming, right? Like we are either Actually, someone said this to me recently. We are either doing the program or we are being programmed, right? And having some control over that is really important. Let me ask you about the intention. So, is there power in writing those intentions down? In other words, like now all of a sudden it's physically manifest and I'm writing it down on a piece of paper.
Absolutely, there's power in writing it down, and there's power in recording it in your own voice, and there's power in rereading and rewriting and re-listening and re-recording, most of which is because it's more physical. It's slightly outside of your personal life experience, and so it goes back into the brain as a physical activity that is installing it in your mind. If you just think it's kind of ghostly, it's kind of shadowy, it doesn't have the real depth or the impact. You can't really tattoo this new intention on your brain by just thinking it. You can, but it's difficult to do it. The easier approach is actually get up and in the morning write your intentions out, or rewrite them, or at least reread them. Hold the paper in your hand. You can do it on the computer too, because this is still outside of you. But by moving a pen and moving a pencil, you're actually physically engaging different parts of your brain. The same thing happens when you're speaking it or you're listening to yourself after you've spoken it and recorded it. You're activating a different part of your brain. You're getting this to go in and almost holographically awaken your brain with this new order. So it's deeper, it's richer, it's more permanent than just thinking a good thought. Now you're making it really important to your life, and you're telling yourself that.
Right. And what about speaking to other people? I mean, obviously there's dangers in going and letting people know your intentions, but what are your thoughts about that? Is it
sharing your intentions with other people? I say don't do it. I say don't do it. And I'll give you my disclaimer here. But even me, I mean, I'm right at age 70 here, and I've had a lot of accomplishment. I'm a musician. I've been in a bunch of movies, written 90 books. I mean, I can list a bunch of things that I've done. And I came from homelessness, and I came from poverty. Even today, I will not share my big dreams with just anybody. I don't want people raining on my parade. I don't want that negativity to enter my life. I'm protecting my dream. That's what I advise people to do. You got an intention for your life, Godspeed to you, and you keep it close to your heart and you protect it. The only loophole there is if you're in a mastermind, or you have a coach or a mentor or an advisor, somebody that can share that dream with you and help you get there, that's the only people that you want to share it with. If you can find somebody who's already succeeded at what you want to succeed at and pick their brains and be in their aura, so to speak, and share your dream with them, then Godspeed, go do that. But I would not share it on Instagram or social media or out in the public, or just kind of flippantly share it to the world, because there's the danger of somebody saying something negative and it'll weaken your own resolve to make it happen. So unless you're Arnold Schwarzenegger, who has a vision and makes it come true no matter what, I would say keep it to yourself.
That's sad if you think about it, right? Considering the world and the communities that we live in, which is, it would be amazing if that was the opposite, which is, we lived in these communities that I shared intentions out there and people were like, yes, you know what, that's a great idea and you should do it and I'll support you and all that stuff. And, I think this is part of the mission that like a lot of impactors and thought leaders have, which is how do you leave this world in a little bit of a better place? I mean,
well, let me address that, because I don't want you to get away with saying that. You just said it was kind of sad, and I can understand why you're saying that. But I see that the world is awakening. I see that more people are going for what they want and attaining it. And then thanks to social media, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and all the bells and whistles, TikTok, and the different ways you can get a word out, people achieve their dreams and then they broadcast it to the planet. That awakens everybody. That inspires everybody. That elevates everybody. In the old days, when we didn't have the internet, we didn't have this instantaneous communication ability. If somebody achieved something, you'd have to read about it in the newspaper, maybe read a book they wrote later in the years, and maybe it would inspire you. But today, we have enough people achieving these breakthrough goals that all of us can go and say to ourselves, wow, if he or she did it, what can I do? I think that elevates the possibility for all of us. So I don't see it as sad. I think it is I see it as becoming this new, I don't know, reason for joyous celebration. I accomplished something. After I accomplish it, I'll tell the world. And maybe
Right.
that's the important distinction. You know,
Right.
I got into strongman training, I don't know, 10 years ago. And that's when you bend horseshoes and nails with your bare hand and drive a bolt into a board and take steel bars and bend them. And I went crazy. I was so excited about this. But when I
Right.
was learning it, I didn't tell anybody. I thought, what if I fail? What if this turns out to be a ridiculous waste of my time? But when I started doing it, oh my God, I wrote a book on it. I wrote a book called Anything is Possible, 7 Lessons I Learned from bending nails and horseshoes. So after you achieve it, yeah, tell the world. But before, probably keep it to yourself.
Be very careful. I like the way you reframe that. It's true. The world is waking up, and we do have such amazing thought leadership. I talk about this a lot. Like, you know, when some of us grew up, there were no books. Like famous example, there were no books on parenting, right? Your parents just parented you the way that they were parented, right? Today, we live in a world of, there are books out there. There are thought leaders. There are coaches. There's all that. Amazing.
You know, I gotta I hope you don't mind, but you trigger something, and I just got to interrupt and run with it. When you were growing up, there were books on parenting, and the library was full of books on parenting. The bookstores were full of books on parenting. When I was born in 1953, Dr. Spock was out there talking about whether you spank your child or not. I mean, there's always been those, but most people have not paid attention to it. Just a few weeks ago, the lady that takes care of our French bulldog, once a week, we drop her off for doggy daycare. And this woman was pregnant. She's like 25 years old. She's going to have her very first baby. And she was scared. And I jokingly said, have you ever been to a bookstore or a library? And I said, you're not the first person in history to give birth. There are so many people who have done it. As a gift for her, I went on Amazon and I started looking at all the parenting books, and it's overwhelming. And this is where marketing comes in, because somebody titled their parenting book, How Not to Raise an Asshole. And I thought, that's a good book. So I bought that and gave it to her. Point being, the books have always been there. Books have been here since the beginning of time in many respects. I mean, Socrates, Seneca, the ancient Stoics, this is not new. It's out there. Even the law of attraction, it's been here for a long time.
It's just the access and whether we're going to take advantage of reading.
Or you got to pick up the book and read it or not. That's the point.
Yeah. And then action that afterwards, right? I think,
oh my God.
You know, the danger in the world we live in today is people get caught up in the exercise of just reading the book or just doing the program or just going to the mastermind. And it's the information.
I get on my soapbook when it comes to that. My soapbox.
Right.
And I pound it saying, look, nothing happens until you move, man. Life is a co-creation. You have to do your part. A lot of people who watch The Secret, this was the big mistake they made. They said, oh, I'm just going to visualize it. I'm going to intend it, and it's going to show up, that the universe will provide. And I want to shake them and say, look, you are the universe. You are the one who's supposed to take action. The universe, the outside forces will meet you part way. But life is a co-creation. When I was homeless and in poverty, I had a typewriter and I was typing on it because I wanted to be an author one day. If I just wished upon a star and just visualized it and just imagined it and just thought about it, but I never punched a key in the typewriter, you wouldn't be interviewing me today. I had to go to the computer later, typewriter in the early days. And when I wanted to be a musician, I had to get the band. I had to learn how to do everything. I had to get into a studio. I had to book it all. You must take action. You must take action.
Well, what else do you do? You're a musician, an author, a marketer, a TV personality, a strongman that bends nails. What drives you in all of this? I mean, passion.
All I'm doing is following what excites me. I'm a lifetime member of the Society of American Magicians. When I was a kid, I read a biography of Harry Houdini, probably in the 1960s. And I thought, I want to be like him. And I named myself Harry Excello. And I even created a couple tricks. And a few times in my speaking engagements, I performed them. Why? I was passionate about it. When I learned about strongman training, and I was lucky enough to meet the world's greatest strongman, Dennis Rogers, and he invited me to learn how to do it. At first, I was scared, just like, I'm going to hurt myself. I'm not like this guy. I mean, I type on a computer. I don't have strong hands. And I learned how to do it. Next thing you know, I'm passionately, insanely crazy. I'm bending nails and giving them to people over lunch. It's like, hey, I bent this for you. And they look at me like, what am I supposed to do with this? But I'm doing it because I'm passionate. When I turned 60, I looked around and I said, what's on my bucket list? Because I've done quite a bit. And at 60, I thought, well, I always wanted to be a musician. I always wanted to learn how to sing, write songs, go in the studio. I put that on my list. And I don't want to say it was easy. And this is an important thing for everybody to get. When you go for a goal you've never gone before, you will be uncomfortable. You could even be terrified. But if you persist and you take care of the beliefs, the counter intentions, things we've been touching on here, you'll be able to do it. And of course, I've recorded 15 albums in about 10 years. And my band is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I call them the Band of Legends. I can go on, but to answer your question, it's passion. Whatever I am passionately excited about, I'm following it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. How many instruments do you play?
Guitar, saxophone, and harmonica.
Wow, harmonica is cool. I'm always impressed with guys or people that play harmonica. It's
right.
It's
well, that's where I started. And I was stuck in traffic in Houston. This is decades ago, and I realized that if I had a harmonica sitting on the dashboard, I could practice stuck in traffic, and that's where it all began.
Super cool. Super cool. When's your next show? You got a show coming up?
No, because we haven't really gotten together because of the pandemic. Everything is shut down. And so right now, none of that. I'm only beginning to travel and do the speaking engagements. I was just in Ireland and Dallas. I'm going to Russell Brunson's event in Boise, Idaho next week. So some of the travels are just opening up again.
Yeah, I feel like the world has opened up over the last couple of months, specifically for like this type of industry, speaking, training. My schedule's blown up. So it's like all of a sudden gone from like almost 100% virtual, like deliveries, coaching sessions, to now like 100% live. And it's like people are on again. Since considering the current state of affairs in the world, we've come out the pandemic, what do you think, if general advice that we can focus on and put our mindset to over the next couple of years? What do you think we could do as entrepreneurs to ensure that there's success, build communities, making sure that there's success?
Well, it goes back to what you would do as an individual, as well as what you would do as a business owner or in the collective, in a community. It's setting an intention on what you want to have, do, or be. What do you want to create? What do you want to do? What's the difference you want to make? That intention is the radar. That is the goal. That's the outcome. That's the target. It's answering the question, if you had every means available to you, what would you go for? That is what you want to go for. You want to write that out. So now you have a target. And then you want to move in the direction of what are the steps I can take right now to make it happen. I think if there was any general advice, I'd say don't think negative, think positive, think in terms of opportunity. For example, right now, as you and I are recording this and we're having this wonderful conversation, artificial intelligence, ChatGPT is all over people's brains and in the news, and a lot of people are terrified. They think the world's going to come to the end. They think a lot of jobs are going to be lost or removed. And I'm looking at ChatGPT going, oh my God, what kind of jobs are we going to create? What kind of new positions? What kind of new activities? What kind of creative minds are going to use it in some way I don't even see coming and develop some new business, something that's going to make a difference in the world? And I've been playing with it enough that one day it pretty much wrote a book for me. So I have 91 books. This one by Joe Vitale and ChatGPT, I openly shared credit with it, but I wouldn't have had it had I not played with it. And I did an interview last week about artificial intelligence, which I've been checking out since the 1990s, because it was my very first big success in direct mail. I sold an artificial intelligence program like in 1992. It was on a DOS disk. So I've personally been fascinated with this. And on the interview the other day, I said, there have been people who have said they are calling themselves prompt engineers as a new job title to help people create the prompts to get the best responses from artificial intelligence.
Right.
So all of this is just to say, instead of looking at the doom and gloom possibilities, I'd look at the riches and the bountiful possibilities that may be coming and march in that direction.
Yeah, totally agree. I have a friend, actually, he's a producer, music, brilliant DJ, a brilliant genius, musician and producer and everything. And he said, Greg, what's going to be interesting is how education is going to, in some cases in the future, be more how you prompt AI and understanding the different types of prompts versus the actual task. And I agree with you. I think, we're always evolving. Technology has always been a scary thing for people. As soon as anything's come in place, there's been the naysayers, which is this is going to end the world. We can't use it, right? We might even argue that happened with the VHS tape and the CD, right, or the DVD. But it is going to create a ton of new opportunities and new jobs and new ways of working. I love the fact that you did your latest book through ChatGPT, because on the very secretly, I did a book through ChatGPT. And it's early stages, but I was like, okay, instead of me trying to go and write out all of these things, let me just start prompting it. And just like, now, obviously we need to go through the next and the next and the next, but you've just motivated me to continue that exercise instead of
do. What I tell people, since we're talking about ChatGPT and artificial intelligence, is use it, but don't turn your brain over to it. It is not going to replace your thinking, your editing, your intention. I've learned to ask 3 questions when it comes to using artificial intelligence, and it's worth sharing right now. The very first one is, when you get something back from ChatGPT, you ask, is it accurate? Because I've noticed that it will give you resources that don't actually even exist. And there was a story recently of an attorney who tried to get his case files all put together by ChatGPT, and some of them were fictional. And so the very first thing is, no matter what you get back from ChatGPT, ask, is it accurate? And you're going to have to do a little research to find out.
Sure.
The second question is it useful? Because sometimes it'll come back with something and you look at it and you go, well, that's interesting. There's just words on the screen. It actually isn't anything I could use. So you have to ask, is it practical? And this is where your own personal wisdom and experience comes in. For example, I've had it write a couple sales letters. And the sales letters would come back and I'd read them and go, that's actually a pretty good letter, but it's not a great letter. It's not a supernatural letter. It's not a record-breaking letter. And that's because I have experience as a copywriter. The average person, if they are in business, they're going to go to ChatGPT and say, write a website for my business, write a sales letter for my business. ChatGPT will do it. But how do you know if it's any good? This is why the second question, is it useful, is really something you have to put your critical thinking hat on. And what is the third question? The first one is it accurate? The second, is it useful? The third is it you? Meaning, is it your personality? Is it your style? Is it the voice you would normally write in? I asked ChatGPT to write, I don't know, a story or something in the voice of Joe Vitale. It came back with a story, but it wasn't in my voice. It wasn't my style. And so I couldn't use it. It wasn't even useful to me, let alone was it accurate. So I have fun, and I am eagerly waiting to find out what some young creative person does with ChatGPT that'll just blow our minds. But my early experiences are positive and optimistic. And I say, keep those 3 questions in your back pocket.
Are you able to re-upload your edit? Like, take that, tell the story out of Dr. Joe, edit it so it is in your voice, upload it, and say, this is my voice. So in future, references.
I have taken a few items that ChatGPT came back with and just edited it. And sometimes I'm editing it so much, I'm going, why did I even let it start? But this is actually, at least for me currently, the great use of artificial intelligence. It can get your first draft done. It can brainstorm, it can kickstart, it can get the momentum going, get your juices going. Now you have something to work with. When you sit down, you're looking at a blank screen, whether you're going to write a presentation or a fundraising document, that's kind of difficult. But if Chat does it for you, you have something to work with. And that does make it easier.
Cool. Very cool. As you were telling me about these 3 questions, it reminded me of, and I'm sure you've heard this, Socrates' 3 questions of truth.
Yes. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it necessary? Something like
Yeah,
that.
is it useful? So if someone says, "Hey, Dr. Joe, I heard some guys talking about you," and you say, "Whoa, hold on a second. Before you tell me what they said, is what you're about to tell me true?"
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's true. I've heard this. Okay, well, let's go to the next question, right? Is what you're about to tell me is it accurate or good? Is it good? Well, no, it's kind of bad. It's actually a bad thing about you, right? Okay, well, is what you're about to tell me useful? I might have butchered those questions, so for the audience, they could go Google it. But it's a cool way of managing the information and the rumors and stuff that come in. Anyway,
I'm looking off to the left because I have a poster on the wall that says, "Before you speak, think." And THINK means T, is it true? H, is it helpful? I, is it inspiring? N, is it necessary? And K, is it kind? There's something that we want to hold on to. It's probably an extension of what Socrates said, but is it true, helpful, inspiring, necessary, or kind? And if it's not those things, then shut the hell up.
Correct. By the way, I'm going to beg and borrow this. I'll always credit you. I'll be like Dr. Joe talking about it. It's amazing. By the way, is that a copper bottle that you're drinking out of?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I only got it yesterday. I had seen. Do you use them or do you know about them?
No, I've just been seeing all the ads on Instagram about this, and it's like how adds copper and all the minerals into your water, and it's healthy and stuff. Yeah. I'm assuming that's why you got it.
That's exactly why I got it. I drink a lot of water. I need to be dehydrated. I saw the ads too, which proves advertising does work.
It sure does,
and eventually I bought it. And it's kind of a cool bottle. It's all copper. It looks different. And when I hold it up in the camera, it gets people's attention, just like you. You're going, what the hell is he drinking? What's in that thing? He says it's water. Maybe it's not.
Well, you're going to have to let me know. You're going to have to come back in like next 30 days or so and say, let me know how that copper water bottle goes. Because if it's working, I'm going to get a few. If it's not, then we're going to say marketing. Right. Okay. So, I mean, we might say you're a marketing guru and genius, right?
I don't think I would say it, but
well, your bio actually reads as global famous author, marketing guru, movie, personality. So let's talk a little bit about marketing. I mean, in general, I'm in the thought leadership space. I'm in the executive coaching space, and I find it very difficult to market today or to get the message out in the way I want to, right? I mean, sometimes it's a cost, sometimes it's the messaging and stuff. I mean, if you were to give me some advice, hey, going into the rest of the year in 2024, here are some things that you could really think about when it comes down to, marketing and communicating and branding your messages out there. What would be some of those areas I should focus on or think about?
Holy smokes. What a great question. What a big question. At least a third of the books I've written are on marketing. I mean, I wrote Hypnotic Writing. I wrote Buying Trances. I wrote There's a Customer Born Every Minute. I wrote the AMA Complete Guide to Small Business Advertising for the American Marketing Association. I don't even remember all the different books I've written. And when I first came out, I was known as a copywriter and internet marketer long before I ended up in the movie The Secret, which threw me into the category of self-help spiritual teacher. Right. So the marketing and copywriting for me goes way back, and I've got a deep love for all of it. And I've studied the masters from the 1800s through the early 1900s and continued on to even today. And I'm smiling right now because it's such a joyful thing to talk about for me. So first of all, we live in a time where the distribution of information is easier than ever. That's the good news. With social media and then the push of a button kind of a mentality, you can get the word out. At the same time, it is overwhelming the amount of people that are trying to get each other's attention out there. That is just what is staggering and will bring you to your knees when you think about it. But I'm going to tell you the greatest tip of all. And I learned this from P.T. Barnum and all the P.T. Barnum-like characters since him. I wrote that book, which most of the marketing people out there who have read it just adore it. It's called There's a Customer Born Every Minute. It's on the business secrets of P.T. Barnum. P.T. Barnum was the circus giant. Most people know him from the circus, but he was an entrepreneur. He was an author. He was a speaker. He was a marketer. He was a publicist. Oh, my God. He did so much in 80-some years. It was mind-boggling. And the one thing that he did that we can all still do today And I'm going to preface it by saying 5 days before Barnum died, 5 days, he's on his deathbed. He wrote a letter that said, I owe the newspapers of the world for my fame and fortune. And that was the clue. He used publicity. Back then, of course, he didn't have the internet or radio or television, but he used any form that was available with technology. And he was around when Edison and others were experimenting. So he knew them. He wanted to be on the leading edge of the different ways to get the word out. He always relied on what he called skyrockets. Skyrockets are publicity magnets. They're getting the attention of the public because your message isn't going to be seen. It's going to be drowned in all the sea of other people trying to get the message out there at the same time. So you need to send a skyrocket up. You need to send some sort of flare into the world, into the marketplace, to get them to turn and look at you. And then when they turn and look at you, then you got your chance to get your word out and your news releases and your memos and your books and your courses and your businesses and whatever else it happens to be. To me, publicity and the seeking of publicity is the number one most underused marketing technique today. Everybody is falling in love with, oh, there's an app to do this. There's a website to do this. Artificial intelligence can do this. And they keep forgetting, my God, you're not the only person in the planet. Everybody is stampeding in the same direction. It's like artificial intelligence hits the news and then 5 million people go and download the app the next hour.
Like overnight.
Yeah, it's literally overnight, literally. So what do you have to do here? You're going to have to think like a publicist. You're going to have to think more creatively. In the very early days, this is before The Secret, and I was trying to get attention for me and my business. My first website was Mr. Fire, put it up in 1995, MRFIRE. And I thought, how in the world am I going to get attention for Mr. Fire? And I had this crazy idea. eBay was coming around and getting a lot of attention. If I had something on eBay that people would be searching for, and I did a little research, and they searched for Elvis. And I thought, okay, if I had anything related to Elvis, maybe they'll associate me with that. But I didn't. And then I was thinking about Barnum. Barnum, of course, had a mermaid. There's no such thing as a mermaid, but he had a fabricated mermaid. And that fabricated mermaid, he would announce in the newspapers, was at his museum, and you can go see it for 50 cents. And the newspapers, sensing, oh, there's publicity here, told the readers get their 50 cents and they go to the museum to see the mermaid. So I thought, what do I got to do? And I came up with this wild idea, and I created an Elvis mermaid. An Elvis mermaid. Preposterous, right? You can't even imagine. What is an Elvis mermaid? That's the point. It provokes your curiosity. So I listed on eBay, I had an Elvis mermaid for sale. I didn't put any picture there. What I was selling was the photo. I had an art piece done. It was really a blend of Elvis and some ridiculous thing. This was so long ago, I don't even remember. And there were bids going on it. And I said, if you want to know more, be sure to go to MrFire.com in the description. So I'm getting traffic because people are typing in Elvis, and suddenly there's an Elvis mermaid. What the hell? They're looking at Elvis mermaid, and it says, go see Mr. Fire for more information. I got traffic going to my website. Wow. Then a radio station bids on the Elvis mermaid and wins it. And because they thought the whole thing was so preposterous, they interview me. So I'm getting national radio attention. Remember, this is before a lot of things are taken for granted. And I got national attention for this ridiculous publicity stunt. And I've done other ones, and other people have done other ones. And you don't have to be zany. You don't have to be crazy, no matter what you think that is. The point is, you've got to think out of the box. Maybe the best advice for the people that would be watching or listening to this so that they feel like they're sane and they can pull this off is to think like a journalist. Think like a journalist and look at your business, look at your life and ask, where's the story? Right. Where's the story? The story could be in you. If you've developed a business because you went through some catastrophe or you went through some challenge and you overcame it, oh my God, that's going to be really newsworthy. Yeah. If you got people who work for you that have done something similar, or you're involved in a cause, maybe 5% of what you're doing is going to go to a charity, and that charity is something we all love. Tell the news, tell the publicity department. A lot of what we see in the newspapers and headlines, when I look at the Google News for like 5 minutes, I tell people go on a media diet. Don't spend all day watching the news. But you can go on a media diet, find out what the headlines are, and then go about your business creating a life that you are loved and inspired by. And when I look at the media, I'm going, my God, most of those are news releases that were planted by people who wanted them to be seen. Mm. This is the lesson of P.T. Barnum. This is the great lesson of marketing, and it's the most underused tool. And most of the time, it's free.
Best lesson I've heard. It makes so much sense, because that is my battle to as the industry that I'm in. There's a sea, and just to cut through the noise, right? And by the way, what I do we are good. We are the ones that have been around for 25 years. Like we have program. Like we are a substantial organization, but we're in some cases for that attention, we're competing with Joe Blow, who decided to become a coach. Oh, no pun intended.
I understand.
Right? But competing with the individual who decided that they're going to become a coach today and they're going to be a life coach today. And like, there's just, how do you search that? That's helpful. Super, super helpful.
Yeah.
All right.
Think like a journalist.
Yeah. I'm just looking at your massive bookshelf behind you. And besides 1,000 of books that have popped out, the one thing that's sticking out is Be Happy. Tell me about that.
Well, we have a choice in how we look at life, and most people are looking at life with the bumper sticker that says some version of crap happens or shit happens. And I'm like, why in the world are you putting that negative slant in the world? You have a choice when you go through life. And if you go with the default for most people is the negative. That, again, ties into what we talked about earlier, is we want to be aware of the negative because it could be a threat to our survival. But when we have a mindset that only looks for the negative, it's very difficult to create. We can't inspire ourselves. We can't make a difference in the world. We can't get anything done. And we're dragging our feet most of the time because we're not happy, let alone we're not healthy. So what's the opposite? Expect miracles. That's one of the other signs I have on my back. And that's usually in the back behind me. And one of the T-shirts I see it
right there. I could see it now.
Yeah. And so Be Happy is just a reminder, man. At least reach for it. At least reach for it. There was a football announcer back in the 70s, and he said something like, if you're not happy, you're missing a great opportunity. And I thought, that's so perfect. This is the opportunity right here, this moment. This is it. You don't have to wait for something to happen. Sure, we all want things to happen, and we all have our goals and everything. But why can't we be happy right now as we're moving towards them? So it's up there because it's a reminder.
That's good. Yeah. I talk a lot about it in my company. We talk about the university of sticky notes. Take all these things, write them on sticky notes and stick them around your screen.
Right.
Be happy, focus on your goal. And it's just having that in the peripheral, which is that constant reminder, right?
Yeah.
Dr. Joe, if I had a few more hours with you, I would pick your brain even more, but we are already at the top of the hour.
Oh, I'm just warmed up. Give me a
I know.
You're calling the end now?
Well, no, I mean, I want to make sure that we're respectful of time, right?
Well, thank you.
But what you're talking a lot about as well is built-in neurological pathways and connections, right? Which is what you were talking about before. Is, if I just paraphrase a little bit, our brain is always developing new connections, new branches, right? And if we stay with that neurological connection, that pathway long enough, and we work that and we run across that path long enough, that neurological pathway becomes a neurological highway. And it's for feelings and emotions and all this stuff. And when you talk about survival, I talk a lot about emotional survival, right? Which is people in their head feel like they've got a gun to their head. But it's not reality. It's a perception. It just feels that I'm threatened. So I'm glad you spoke a lot about that. Tell us a little bit about your podcast, because I think it would be great for the audience to come check out some of your guests. And then, of course, talk to us a little bit about some of your latest book, not maybe number 90, not 91.
I'm reaching for one of the books here. Well, thank you. First of all, I've greatly enjoyed this. I love the interaction. I love the questions. And I love that you allowed me to speak what was on my mind, even when I interrupted you a couple of times. So thank you for all of that. I do have a video podcast, an e-TV show, if you will, called Zero Limits Living. And I'm exploring whether we actually have any limits or not. And so far, it seems like we don't have any limits except the ones we believe in, the ones that we are calling mental constructs. And we're saying that's reality. That's the boundary. But when we shine a light on it, it doesn't really seem like that's true. So all the episodes are at ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com, ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com. It's seen on Roku and Apple and Amazon and YouTube and Spotify and 1,000 other platforms around the world. Mm-hmm. And I interview authors and speakers and people I've known personally, people I think will make a difference. So ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com. And my latest book is called Unexpected Kindness. Unexpected Kindness. When Bob Proctor died, he was the grandfatherly law of attraction guy in the movie The Secret. It impacted me because he had deeply affected me and redirected my life in at least one way.
Yeah, you guys were close.
I'm sorry?
You guys were close.
We were very close. Thank you. Yes, we were very close. He was a mentor to me right till the end. And I wrote a story about him after he died. And then the next morning, I found myself writing a story about somebody else who had been kind to me. And then the next morning, and it went on for 30 days. And for me, it was great therapy. It was a great reminder. And it was a great insight that, you know, we live in this world where we're fighting over politics. We're fighting over possibilities. We're fighting over artificial intelligence. We're fighting over not just religion like we did for the longest time. We still do that. We're fighting over everything. But the one thing we all agree on can make a difference, and we all can easily do it, and we all recognize it when it's done, is kindness. Kindness. So I wrote my book, Unexpected Kindness, to give thanks to the people who helped me when I was broke and unknown and didn't show any signs for future success. And I wrote the book hoping that it would inspire people to do kindness. And the feedback I'm getting when people read the book is that they're remembering the folks who helped them with unexpected kindness that they had forgotten about.
Right.
That's why Unexpected Kindness.
What a powerful book, and from an intention of, like, you know, people to take that and to be reminded and then to pass that forward and stuff. It's incredible. Exactly. I'm gonna buy your book, but I definitely want a signed copy of your book as well.
All right.
We're gonna have to arrange that afterwards. And you know, that's what you talk about, the THINK acronym, right? Be true, helpful, inspiring, right? Necessary, and the final thing was kind.
Kindness.
Right? Yes. So cool, man. You are an inspiration, and you are such an impactor to this world as a thought leader. You've made a huge dent in the personal development space, and you know, you are one of the OGs, right? In a positive way, right? Thank you for all the work you do. We're going to post your the Zero Limits podcast and the TV link. We're going to have that on the show notes for the audience. And then, of course, we'll get some of your other handles out there for your social handles. To the audience, if you're not following Dr. Joe, this is someone that you should have been following a long time ago, and you've probably crossed his work in many aspects. So go and check out some of his stuff. At the end of the show, we come to the most important question, which is, what do you think we could do to all be better humans tomorrow?
You know, Marcus Aurelius, the poster boy for Stoicism, said 200 centuries ago, quit arguing about what a good man is, be one. And I think it's hinting to the idea that underneath all of the speculation, all of the ideals, each one of us knows what we need to do.
Right.
So I would kind of paraphrase Marcus Aurelius and say, look, I'm in your face, but you know what to do, so go do it.
Great advice. Great advice. And from the theme that we were talking about before, it's been around forever, right? This is not new.
Exactly.
Right? This is what they call wisdom, right? Which is that whole concept of, like, you know, it's what's the difference between being intelligent and wise. Dr. Joe, I super appreciate this. For the audience, I was saying to you earlier, man, what an honor to have you on the show. It's I've been in the personal development space for such a long time, and it's amazing to be sitting here with you and having this conversation. It's been inspiring and hugely impactful. Thank you.
Thank you.
To the audience, if you haven't done this already, subscribe. Make sure you like this episode. If you found benefits and value and this was helpful and you want to be kind to someone, go ahead and share this episode out. Let's go pick up Joe's new book, Unexpected Kindness. I think there's some amazing stories in there. And stay happy, stay healthy, and we'll see you next week at next episode.